but also, yeah, check the quality of it all. I can't tell. Looks like it's going. Let's see. I guess I wouldn't even know how to check my own live. No, nice. It says I'm live. That's what's up. Hey. All right, cool. We are good to go. Well, what's up, guys? Jordan here with James Visuals, and today I'm doing some photo edits live. Also, if you guys have any questions about photo video shit, please just drop it below. I can see the comments right here, so please, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'd be happy to answer them on live. Without any further ado, let's get into some editing, okay? Let's see. So we have a few different photos here, just some random pics. If you guys have any preference on which one I should edit first, let me know. But we got some decent choices as far as like variety goes. We got some outdoor ones. I kind of want to edit this one first because it's something I never actually edited before. And then also you're able to see, yeah, just some of this. Let's see, my bad, y'all. All right, cool. All right, let's see. So first things first, we got this image. Obviously, I like the motion in it. Let me see. Let's actually bring this out. All right, so we're able to see all the detail. That's the first thing I check with all photos, just to make sure that it's actually in focus. Which, if we can, zoom into the eye, we do see that it is in focus, which is good to go. So what I want to do first thing I noticed is that the highlights are super bright. I didn't use any off-camera flash for this shot, so it was just all natural light, meaning all this back detail is just kind of gone. But as you can see in this image, it was kind of overcast anyways. So like the actual, I don't know, background detail doesn't matter too much. Obviously, like if we're doing something like, I don't know, like this image, it kind of matters, but even this was not with a flash, it was with a reflector, and then lots of this background detail is kind of gone, but it was able to light at least my subject here. But yeah, let's go ahead and hop into this photo. Not quite sure. Let's see. Alright, so first things first, like I said, highlights. I edit in Lightroom and Photoshop. It's like a mixture of both. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and see what I can do as far as conserving the highlights. Luckily, Lightroom has some crazy tools now with this whole AI subject select and all this kind of stuff. So what I'm actually going to do is come into here and do range and luminance and test out this part. It's going to grab all of that information, however we're able to refine it, and hopefully just be able to pick out just the background without any of our skin. So now we got just like the brightest highlights of the image right here, up here, and then like a little bit on the wood, but not that it matters too much. Now we have that selected, I can kind of come into here and just drag back the highlights. You see we get a little bit more color back in here, which is nice. Not too detrimental to the actual image, but at least gives us a little bit to work with as far as just like not completely blown out white in the background. So we're able to recover all that information, which is super nice. That's a benefit of working with raw images over JPEG, is you're able to actually retain that information, like whether it be shadow or highlight details. So if we see here, we see that things are retained, although I think, let's see, I don't know, it might have been clipped beforehand, but we did get a little bit of color. I don't know, you see right here? Yeah, so I mean, it's probably clipped. Oh well, not too crazy because we're not, I guess in it too much as far as that part. But we're going to pull it back just a little bit to make it a little bit more natural. Yeah, we're still getting chromatic, what is it called? Aberration or whatever. Yeah, aberration, I don't know how to fucking say that. We're still getting that, so we're going to actually remove that, enable profile corrections, which will actually take the lens into account and kind of fix it. That's going to help with vignetting, and also any distortion. It's at 85 f1.8 though, so there's not much distortion. However, it will take away the what's it called? The vignetting, but we'll add that later with the mask or whatever. So next thing I want to do is just make my subject pop more. So we can kind of come into here. What I'm going to do is select background. What this will do is select everything but my subject, although it did select a little bit of the dress, so it's black. We'll see. We're going to drop the exposure a bit just because we don't really want the outsides of the image to be brighter than the actual subject. We'll drop it down, just kind of really crush that shit. Then we'll make another one. We're going to select a subject, which will go through and select our subject. Then at that point I want to brighten her up, but not too much, just because obviously I don't want it to be like the craziest difference between the actual background and subject. So with that, I'm going to brighten her up a little bit, maybe pull this back just a bit too so it looks a little more natural. Let's see, there we go. Alright, cool. So we're at that starting point here. So from here, we're going to look at it. White balance wise, it seems pretty decent, a little bit more on the cool side, but I kind of like it for this image. So we're going to kind of balance out a little bit, warm it up just a bit, make sure the pink and the green, the tint is pretty decent. So we got like a nice white balanced image. Like the colors are pretty accurate to what it should be. Let's get a drink of some apple juice. Is anybody in here? I can't even tell honestly as far as the views go. Does not say because I don't see any questions or anything like that yet. Alright, it says 6 viewers on Facebook. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in. It could be anything photo or video wise, anything question wise, just feel free to ask and I can definitely answer them with you guys just so that way you guys can kind of get some answers. Just because lots of people do ask me questions with photo and video things and I try to give my best answers, but obviously with everything photo video, it's super complicated. It can go very easy or very in-depth depending on the answer. But here, while you guys got me live, we might as well just kind of go in depth. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. So for next thing I see, before I actually even go through and like mess with my highlights, shadows, whites and stuff, I like to get my colors right, just so that way I can kind of get it to a way that I like it more, just because the greens look okay, but they're not really like super complementary, nothing's like really popping too much. Technique I actually learned recently is to come into here, we have our primaries, so this changes the actual way colors are perceived in the camera, because every camera is different. Sony, Nikon, Canon, Red, everything's different as far as the way like they perceive color information. Like one green on one camera can be something else on the other, and so this kind of allows you to like correct your profiles and get that kind of correct, but also kind of push it more into a fantasy realm or like really whatever realm you want. So like we see here, we can take it, obviously like going one way or the other is just too drastic, and we see the skin tones kind of be crushed or whatever into whatever realm. But if we take it a little lighter, we could get the greens in more of a yellow tone, and then push the skin tone into its own like little territory too. But for my camera, I like to bring this up to like plus 20-ish, at least for the majority of them. Maybe reds, just because you can see here, the skin tones are kind of getting pushed a little bit more into the oversaturated realm. We don't want that obviously, but we'll fix that later. But then let's go ahead and see what else we can get green-wise out of this. So we can push it this way, we can get more of a yellow, or this way to get more of like a green, like a, I don't know, like a water green. Let's see. We'll push it somewhere around here. And this still is, we have another way of changing this as well, but then this is just more of our base, and then from there, the way we're able to correct it and kind of get it to where. Hey, what's up, Isaiah? I appreciate it, man. Thanks for stopping by. Incredible beast. Too kind, man. I appreciate it. Just trying my best. How you been, man? What you been up to? Hopefully you've been good, man. Let's see. So we're going to pull back the saturation on this. Let's see. In the reds. And then we're also going to change the hue a bit, just to try to get the reds where we want them. And then, let's see. It's okay. It's still a little bit more in like the, I don't know, reddish. But then, let's see. Yeah, there we go. So we're going to crank that way, 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 way up. Okay, it's not bad. And we got that. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is just change the hue of these greens. I'm not too big of a fan of it. We're going to see what else we can get out of it. We can go more towards this, which kind of gives more of a witchy vibe. I mean, I could take it into Photoshop and do some selective color and stuff, but I'm not quite sure how it will react. We have lots of greens that are overlapping and shit, so I don't really want to, like, overstep it too much, just because if I do, you know, like, it's going to, I don't know, create more issues, and then also have to be more of an editing process. But we're going to push more into here. I like the fall vibes, just to kind of get that. We're also going to see what other hue we can pull out of the tree trunk. Okay, cool. So you pull that, it kind of pushes it more into that realm. I mean, we're kind of getting close to Halloween, which is crazy. Yo, what's up? Savvy, my boy, Sony Gang. So I need to get back into lighting, or Lightroom, but also he's killing it, bro. Thank you. Appreciate that, fam. Really, really appreciate it. Yeah, this is one of my favorites. I mean, like, this whole session was pretty dope. We got, like, some, like, on the vlog, we got some of this. I actually kind of like this image better than this image, just because there's less obstructing the dress and stuff. But then we'll get into this image, too. Alright, so we're pushing that. Let's see. What else could we do? So one thing I really want to do, and like I said, we're kind of shaping the colors, shaping the light how we want it. before I really do anything crazy, just because I want to see how it looks like, I guess, before I push it to its final state. And that comes with like shaping the light, shaping the colors. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is create a radial gradient, because still I feel like the eye is just not drawn enough to it. So I want to make that very, very wide, invert it, so then at that point it only is selecting the inside of this circle here, whereas everything else on the outside is not affected by this. Or, my bad, opposite, because I'm inverting it. So everything inside the circle is not being touched, everything on the outside is being touched. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the exposure just a bit, because most of this detail on the sides doesn't really matter too much. We don't really need that. And that helps draw the actual image, or the eye into the image, you know, like kind of this way. We can kind of do more to help that as well as we go on. Let's see, so we're going ahead and hop back into here. So now we're going ahead and actually mess with the highlights, the contrast, all that kind of stuff, just to see what else we can pull out of it. I kind of like the exposure where it's at. I do want more contrast, but we're going to add that through our curves here in a second. We're not going to do anything as far as like that goes, just because this contrast isn't as, I guess, selective or whatever. It's just kind of more of a overall type of contrast. We're still going to pull these highlights back a little bit just to see what else we can get and make sure it's not too crazy anywhere as far as like the highlights go, just because I do like the darker vibe for this image. Lots of this shit too, honestly, as far as like editing goes, really just pull and push some sliders. Like with the image, you can kind of pull it, push it, and just see kind of where it's at. Big thing I can say is just don't push things too far. Kind of just, you know, push it all the way, pull it back just to kind of get like a more happy medium, and that way you're not like breaking the image or anything. I'm going to raise the shadows a little bit just because I do want the detail in the dress a little bit more. And then also her hair, since like I said, I wasn't using off-camera flash, so there's not much I can do as far as like adding light in post. Although I don't know if you guys have seen like DaVinci Resolve, they have this whole relight feature. I saw somebody actually go in there and take a photo and add like a digital light inside the photo. It's hard to explain, but in theory you can go in there in the video editing software and add a light in 3D space behind her, and that way you can kind of like add more light to like the back of her hair, like this bit of a tree. So if I could redo this image with flash, I definitely would have had some sort of like flash off camera left here to her right side to brighten her up this way, and then some kind of light in the background since there's no sun, maybe with like a orange kind of like, I don't know, paper or whatever, plastic, just to kind of give it more of a tone. That way we would create more of a, you know, whatever. Or if you wanted to go more into fantasy realm, you could even do like a purple or a blue and like really create like a really crazy type of look. But one thing I'm noticing too, I'm looking down here and her legs are crazy. So like we're pushing tones where we don't need them to be. So we're actually going to go ahead and back this up a little bit. Go back into the calibration, and we're going to mess with the red saturation just to see what we could do as far as saving this. But the legs are kind of out there, so it might have to be like its own like little Photoshop touch later on. And then that way I can go ahead and clean it up and figure it out. Because I want to say maybe just leaf kind of like in the frame. I'm not 100% sure, but we're not going to worry about it too much. Then we'll come into here. We're going to create a curve. Usually it's just like a nice S curve that kind of creates it. One thing I like to be doing now is I'll pull these up a little bit. These are your blacks. These are like the deepest parts of your image that are going to be just black. But then pulling it up like this creates kind of like a soft feel to it, kind of like a filmic look. And you can do the same for the highlights. But like I mentioned before, I'm pretty sure all this highlight information is probably gone. Because if we do look in here, we're losing a lot of the detail in here as far as like all this and chromatic vibration and all just a bunch of weird stuff going on, which is why I like to use off-camera flash, because it helps you preserve all these details, you know. Let's see, so let's go ahead and take this. We're going to go ahead and go back on that curve. We're going to push up a little bit more like this and then pull the shadows down just a little bit. Like I said, kind of just push and pull, see what looks good, see what you like. Lots of photo video stuff is just all through preference. It kind of just feels what you like most out of the image. Of course, be subjective. The way I learned kind of photo editing is just being very, very hard on myself, just so that way I'm not, I don't know, I'm trying to look at my images from an outside perspective and just see how other people might view them. That way things aren't, I don't know, too crazy as far as like how they're pushed. Let's see, we can come into here, we can do some color grading detail. One thing that's super cool about this as well, Lightroom's whole features, they have like a bunch of these AI things. I like to come in here, which makes things easier. I used to go into like Photoshop and like skin retouching, it works, you know, like, and you can do like really meticulous like dodging and burning and all that kind of stuff. But I like to just come in here for simple photos. I'll come in here and do a color range. sample the skin, and then from here it's going to pick up a lot, but then we'll refine it, pull it back a bit, just so that way it picks up mostly just her skin. We're going to lose a little bit of this, but we could brush it later. It just depends. But then from here, this is like my cheap way of doing skin softening, and then from there I will just drop the clarity, and this will make all that color range smoother. Let's see. Alright, let's go ahead and go back into here. We really want to figure out what's going on with the legs. I still don't like it. We're going to mess with the red. Yeah, but see, it's not really affecting the legs too much. Okay, so yeah, that's what's happening. So here, there's a leaf. Since there's a leaf in front of the legs here, it's counting as yellows, and it's affecting the legs altogether. So it's just going with the flow of the leaves. So it won't really matter too much. We could go into Photoshop and fix it, but for this, I don't think I'll even go that too in depth because it's not that serious. But we're going to pull back this, pull back the hue honestly of all this as well. I kind of like the desaturated look, or the maybe fall more look, so we'll push the yellows actually a little more. I kind of like that. The oranges though are attached to skin tones along with the reds, so you want to be careful with those. Whenever you're working with the reds and oranges, it's just always attached to something as far as skin tones go, and that's where you can run into issues. And like one of the biggest things you could do with the image is just make sure that it is skin accurate. You know, you want your skin tones to be good, you don't want them to be pushed too much, and then also you want your highlights and shadows to be decent as well, which I'll show you a trick as well here. So we're going to go into here. We see the dress, it looks a little bit more on the blue side. So if we go into color grading, we can actually go into our shadows. This is like more of a color grading technique, but then you can also use this as like a cleanup tool. So we're looking at it, it's more blue. So what we could do is add the opposite into the dress to push it more into a actual black point. And then with that, it'll change all the darkest parts of the image to actual correct black, and that way we get more of an actual black in the dress and not like a blue tint. That's another thing I see lots of people do is they will just push these colors into your images, but then at that point you're not really getting, I guess, like correct colors or whatever out of it. I don't really know how to explain it, but then like you're just not getting accurateness to it. But then as long as you have like pretty much like a black point, a white point, accurate skin tones, you can really push whatever kind of colors you want. This is a good way to actually get your blacks to a good point. And then also you can come in here and do the same with the highlights. However, there's not much highlights. But then I do want to come in here. Let's see, we'll back it up. We'll mess with the lumen into this so we can give it more of a faded look. That kind of gives it that filmic look. Just because you kind of get those faded blacks or whatever, which is pretty cool. The details still there as far as everything goes, but then it kind of just gives you more of a look to it. Let's see, so we're going to come into here, we're going to come add some saturation to the highlights, and then we're going to mess with this. We're going to just move it until we see something that looks a little bit nice, you know. So honestly, I like it around here-ish. Yeah, it looks great. Alright, let's see, so let's take this off. Alright, so we got our lens corrections. So, I mean, that's pretty much it for this image. It's an alright photo. Kind of want to mess with something different though. We're going to come in here and do this one. It is in focus, so that's really good. And we don't have those same problems as far as like the greens and shit, you know, I guess, you know, messing with it. So we're going to come in here. First things first, like looking at it, we do have the information in the background. So like I did shoot this underexposed. That way I can keep all this data here. Not that it matters too much, like I mentioned, it is an overcast day. So there's not much here to actually, you know, look at. So let's see, so drop the highlights, raise the exposure. And this kind of goes back into my relighting phase. So what I want to do is actually come in here, create a radial brush, a radial gradient. We're going to come in here over our subject, raise the exposure, and this is going to help pop her out, but also her face itself was super dark, so I'm going to create another one, and we're going to put that over her. There we go. Alright, so we're going to raise that. So boom, we're creating this just so that way we can get more detail on her face, because obviously we don't want her face to be dark. Her chest is a little hot still as far as like brightness goes. Her face is almost there, but we want to still probably even darken this a little bit more. So we'll come into here, we'll do a brush, make it a little smaller, just a little brush here on the skin, just because we do not want it to be brighter than the face. And we'll take it back just a little bit as far as those highlights go. And then that way we have her face brighten up and not, you know, nothing too crazy. So we'll go ahead and take this, create another radial gradient, and we're going to make this our big one. invert that, and then from there we're going to take the exposure down around the image just to help draw our eye into her and not as much of, just the environment. Let's see. So next thing we're going to do is our tone curve. This will give us our contrast that we're looking for and kind of push it into the realm that we want it to be. We're going to raise like the midtones, highlights-ish area to still help her pop out more. And then from there, let's see, we're going to raise these blacks because we do want that faded look. And then she has all that dress detail too that I do not want to lose. So we're actually going to raise this up a little bit. Raise the highlights. And then we're paying attention to our histogram over here. I do not want to lose any information as far as this goes, but it looks pretty good as far as the actual image goes. So with our contrast before and after, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and go into here, and actually what I want to do is look at our shadows and our blacks, because like I said, I do want that detail in the dress, but I don't really want the background. So what we're going to go ahead and do is do that. Then we're going to drop our gradient a little more to still push that outside down and kind of controlling the image. Alright, so let's go ahead and go into here. First thing I want to kind of do is just mess with the hue of the greens. So we're going to come in here and just mess with this. So for this image, it doesn't look as bad, kind of pushing it into like more of the bluish greens. I mean, this kind of works too, like I said, for that fall vibe. Not really a big fan of greens, to be honest. Like if it was up to me, I'd probably take this into Photoshop if I had more time and I can kind of create, I don't know, more of like a purple or a red. But then at that point, you kind of got to go through and like issues like, or areas like this where it's like, I don't know, overlapping and like kind of like gradient out, well, you'll have, like a lot of trouble with that. We'll do this, then we're coming to saturation. We'll take the greens down a little bit. So I wanted to give it more of like a, kind of like a still mysterious vibe. I don't really want it to be like bright summery. Although that does look pretty decent. I think I'm going to go with a more faded look. But I don't want to push it too far, but just enough to kind of make it a little more faded. And that way, like, the shrubbery around her isn't as, isn't the star of attention, Let's see, we're going to come in here. We'll change the luminance of this as well. So we're going to go ahead and grab this, change the luminance. We're going to drop it down a little bit just so that way it's not competing and the greens look a little less crazy. Alright, that looks good. So we're going to go ahead and here, detail. One thing I like to do is just crank up the detail. This will give us a lot of detail as far as sharpening goes, but then as you see, it's everywhere. We don't really want it to be everywhere, especially since it's so strong. So if you hold Alt or Option or keyboard, you can just crank this down to only select what you want, and then that way if we do this, it's more of just the edges that just help kind of make it pop just a little bit more. We want our images to pop. And yeah, as you can see, if you guys can even see it on here, but we can see like more detail on the eyelashes, like the nose ring here, and that kind of stuff, So we'll take that away. There's not much noise in the image as far as like denoising goes. Honestly, I think it's probably not needed, especially since it was like an outside shoot. Yeah. Let's see, so go ahead and do our lens corrections, and then I don't want the vignette to be fixed, or actually, maybe I do. Yeah, because it's still messing with her face a little bit, so we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to come back into here and drag this down more just to give us our gradient kind of where we want it to be, not necessarily where we don't. That way we can kind of get focus back onto her. There's still a little more light up here than I like, honestly, but we'll just kind of leave it there. It's not too big of a deal. Calibration, so we'll come in here, we'll mess with our saturation just a bit, we'll bring up the blues, bring up the greens. This just helps my specific camera kind of get it to where I like the saturated look. I mean, you can mess with saturation and vibrance, but I don't feel like it gives that natural of a look, whereas this kind of gives a very nice, kind of like a subtle increase in saturation without like overly pushing it, But then we could do the same thing as we did on the last image and mess with the the stuff. We got She-Hulk over here. There we go. The She-Hulk edit, book your shoot today. We're going to pull that back because we don't want to destroy the skin that way. We're going to mess with the greens. No, I don't really like it. So we're going to leave it actually the way it is. Maybe just a little bit off just to kind of mess with it. And back that way. All right, cool. All right, awesome. So let's go ahead and let's see what else I want to do from here. I'm getting a phone call. talk to you later. Basics. Alright, so we're going to mess with this a little bit more. We can come in here, we can do clarity. Up into clarity, we'll just make it too sharp. What I like to typically do, especially with like female portraits, I will drop the clarity a little bit. It kind of gives it more of a fairy tale vibe. Then we can also come into here, and one thing I like to do is mess with this dehaze. So we'll come into here, we'll select the luminance value. Try to just get all the highlights. We're going to try and take this just so it's only affecting the brightest parts of the image. Then from here, we're able to mess with the dehaze. Yeah, so not too crazy, but then still it's giving us a little bit of like, kind of like fluff in the background. It helps just make it a little bit nicer. And then from there, we can mess with the clarity. Messing with this though, I see it is messing with it a little bit too much, so we won't push that too far. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and leave that. And then honestly, let's see. Let's go ahead and see if we can, because this is in Photoshop, we can't crop her out necessarily. Let's see. So we'll just leave that. Check a little bit before and after where we came, where we started, where we're at now. Let's see. Let's go ahead and soften the skin a bit. So color range, we're going to go ahead and select the arm just because it's pretty freed up. Refine it a bit just so we're affecting the skin tones, not the tree too much, although there's not much detail in the tree anyway since it was shot at f1.8 anyway. It's already kind of blurring and stuff, so we'll just leave it at that. Come into here, we're going to go ahead and drop the clarity a bit. Not too much because we don't want to give her like, you know, fake looking skin, but just a little bit to get rid of any like imperfections or anything like that and just make it a little bit more soft, you know. So boom, we got that. And then from here, let's see, we're going to go ahead and back on tone curve. Mess with this just a little bit more because I wanted it to pop more. But I don't want to make it too crazy, which I think I pushed it too crazy. Yeah, so we'll worry about this in another way here. So we'll come into here, we'll do some highlights and stuff. Mess with that, pull the whites back. Alright, there we go. And then we can also do some color grading here. Depends on what we want to do with this. Maybe we could add some colors into it just to give it more of a vibe. I kind of like this. Yeah, and I think what my eyes gravitate towards, I mean, obviously I have this bright light over my face right now, so I don't even know how accurate, honestly, this color grading is going. But hopefully it all looks pretty decent for you guys, and it doesn't look crazy. But I'll make sure like my monitors are, you know, color accurate and everything like that too moving forward. That way you guys can see what I'm doing. But all this is we're just kind of adding a little bit color into the shadows and midtones and highlights to give it more of a look. Obviously with this we still want to make sure that our skin tones look proper, our black points look proper, and our highlights look proper. But then we can kind of like refine that as we go through it. What's up guys? I'm not sure who's in here right now, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them. I'm answering all photo video questions right now, so please feel free to drop them in. Let's see. Alright, no other questions that I see so far. So yeah, if you guys have any photo video questions, now's the time to ask. It could be anything photo video related, music videos, commercials, weddings, portraits, whatever. Feel free to ask. I'm here to answer them, help you guys grow. My goal is to help all photo and video people grow in their skill sets. Just anything I can teach you guys, I'm here to help, you know. So I think we all need to learn, we all can grow, we all can see things differently than one another. We all have different tastes, and that's the beauty of photography, I think, is that we all have different tastes. We're all able to pull something different from an image and a person and an environment, and it's so cool. I love it. Alright, so we're adding some shit into the highlights, and let's see, we're going to go ahead and look at this. I don't really like the highlights, so we're actually going to leave that there. I think that looks pretty balanced as far as like the image goes. Doesn't look too crazy. Alright, cool. Alright, so we'll just leave that kind of as it is. Let's go ahead and hop into this image here. This is an image from a while back with the music video shoot with the homie Deontay, aka Flowman. And then from there we had a model as well. Whole ass music video, super dope. I ended up changing his suit from blue to red. Super, super cool. One thing I'm checking out right now is because I didn't really like this the best way as far as like fill goes. So we have lots of like darkness here, darkness here, darkness here on the face. There's lots of shadows, but if I hover above this, we see that the actual data is not lost, so it's not completely clipped and gone, which is really good. So it means we can kind of like recover lots of it. Honestly, if I were to come in here and brighten it up, yeah, we get all that detail back. Obviously, we don't want it that bright, but it allows us to see kind of what we can work with and see what we could do, you know. So we'll kind of raise the shadows a little bit. I don't want anything too crazy because I still want to keep that mystery of the image. One thing we could do is come into here, range. We can try this. We can stick with the blue, but I'm not sure if I really like it too much. Refine. So yeah, we're trying to pull the blues, not really getting a super good clean like key out of it. Honestly, I like the DaVinci Resolves keying. Allows you to just get a lot better of a look out of it, you know, and like just, I don't know, refine it easier. So we'll just stick with the blue since we're just in Lightroom right now. We'll come into calibration and we're going to up this to 25. Okay, cool. What, number lock? What's going on? 25. There we go. 25. Oops, not 255. Okay, come on. There we go. Alright, so we can do this, and then from here we can actually mess with the tint. It's not letting us, though, for whatever reason. What are we masking? Nope, just not going to let us. Interesting. Alright, so we'll just mess with the white balance then. We'll pull this, and what we're looking for now is to get like a really nice white balanced image. Still on the warmer side. I kind of like the warmer side. Helps the gold accents as far as like bringing that out to life, and then yeah, just all the gold. So we'll go ahead and take that. One thing I'm just going to knock out right away, just so I can kind of see into the final image, is just skin softening. So we're going to take the oranges. Nice, and hopefully this doesn't affect the actual like gold too much, because we don't want that to be less, you know, less detailed. Let's see, so we're looking for clarity. We're going to go ahead and drop that just a bit. Get those soft skin tones going. Then from here, let's see, let's go ahead and see. Clarity. Alright, so we'll push it, but we don't want to push it too much just because we don't want to lose all the texture detail. We just want to give it like a nice little smooth touch, you know? Apple juice, dude. I'm thirsty. Alright, let's see. So we're going to go ahead and come into here. First thing is we're going to do lens correction. Honestly, I think this was shot on my Panasonic GH5. I don't think this was even a Sony. So this is a different image that I'm used to working with. So we'll see. But I mean, the detail is there. It could have been an A7R4 though, because this detail is pretty crazy. So maybe it is a Sony. Alright, we're going to do the same thing. Raise our detail. Come into here because we don't want to affect it too much. So we'll mask that just a little bit just to get the edges of the image. And then from here, honestly, I'm looking at this and I kind of want to add more color, more, I don't know, just more to the image. So we're going to come in here, we're going to add mess with the hues. We could mess with it and push it to a different realm, but you see it's affecting the background as well. So I'm just going to mess with it just to change the blue just a little bit. Luminance, come in here, mess it, turn it up a little brighter. And there's not much other colors, so we're going to go ahead and go into color grading. Let's see, shadows, we're going to increase this and just mess around with it. We're going to see if we have like another complementary color. So if we add honestly some of this, so like a little bit of greenish, orangish into the shadows, it kind of gives it a little bit more out of the realm of pop of like the blues, like in the background, and it helps pop the gold in the skin tone just a little bit. Then from here, we're going to go ahead and go into the mid-tones. Add some saturation as well, and then we'll go ahead and mess with this just to see what else we can get as far as like other complementary colors. When I'm looking at that, kind of goes back towards the blue realm with the blue, but it looks nice for the midtones. Or we can kind of go around here, which is the same spot roughly where we went with the shadows, but it looks a little bit too green. I can't tell. There we go. So we're gonna push it there. Almost the same place, and then from here I think it's just more so just getting rid of the you know, the bluish of it, but also doing this I noticed that I think a lot more green is going into the image as well, which I don't really want. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is come into here, and then we're going to go ahead and mess with this a little bit just to pull some more magenta into the image to get rid of the green. Then that point it kind of balances it out. Then we'll go back into the color grading and then just see how that's affecting our image. So there we go. So we're still pulling out all the blue out of like the areas we don't really want it, and giving it like more of like a black natural tone in the shadows, while also still maintaining a really nice rich skin texture. And that's just kind of more of like in the white balancing realm. Let's see. Let's go ahead and here. Let's go ahead and add our little S curve where we kind of like spike the highlights a little bit, And then we will drag this down. We don't want to drag it too much, honestly. Actually, we're going to raise it just because I do not like all the crushed blacks in the bottom. So we're not even going to add a contrast curve. We're just going to do this. We're going to add our little bit of a black savior here. Just so that way all the blacks aren't crushed completely and all the details still there. We'll go ahead and do this. And then, yeah, so this is our little tone curve. We get a little bit more of that faded black. And honestly, if we come into here, we're going to go into color grading, shadows, change the luminance, keep it more of a faded black. It's a little too much probably, so we're just a little bit, yeah, so around there. And honestly, I like the vibe of like a vintage, so we're going to come in here, we're going to add some grain as well. It looks more like filmic, I think. Gives it like a really nice texture to the entire image. Yeah, it just gives it a nice look, gives it some personality, you know? Alright, let's see. So I think that's pretty much it, but I honestly want to see what we could do with this image in Photoshop. So what we're going to head and do is open up, let's see, we're going to close this one. We're going to go ahead and go into this. One thing I like about this is this is the Photoshop beta, so this actually has this thing called Generative Fill. Honestly, I've been loving it for images and stuff like that. Let's go ahead and check this off real quick, just in case I'm not quite sure what's in here. Make sure there's no sensitive customer photos in here. But yeah, the Photoshop beta has been super nice. It's been able to actually, it's called Generative Fill, so it uses what's in the image as context to fill up things. So it's just nice for cleaning things. You don't have to spend as much time on the image as far as like just tedious cleaning up, or if you want to expand the image, you don't have to do a bunch of clone stamping. It's super nice. Alright, cool. So there's not anything crazy in here. Let's see. Let's go ahead and see if we actually just transfer this image to Photoshop. This has been acting kind of weird, honestly. Yeah, let's see. It's probably going to give us issues. So we might just have to like export the image and bring it into Photoshop, but we'll see. How are you guys doing today while we wait? How's everyone been? How's everyone doing? What's the day like? Talk to me, y'all. Talk to me, talk to me. Yeah, this shit's going to take for a while. Let's see. So let's just go ahead and export the image, or let me see. Maybe I could take both of these images into there. Let's see. So we're going to take this. We're going to take this image. Let's see. We're going to export. Honestly, shit, we could even honestly mess with it in just Photoshop in general. Let's see. Let's go ahead and just minimize Lightroom. We're going to go ahead and go into here. We're going to take our images, drop them into Photoshop. So what we have our camera raw adjustments here. So we're going to go ahead and mess with these just a little bit. I'll pull you back on screen. There we go. Alright, so let's see. We were messing with, and it's not even in here. Where is it at? Weird. Let's see. So cancel. Oh, boom, there. See? Now it came. Alright, so I guess this is the image I was working on. It looks a little bit different. Because maybe it's not a raw image. Maybe that's why. Interesting. Alright, but first things first, what we're going to go ahead and do is actually expand this. So this is the whole Photoshop Generative Fill thing. It's super nice for just making more for your images. So what we can do is kind of come into here. We're going to, let's see, so what we want. Ratio, original ratio. No, we want like custom. Come on, man. 16 by 9 maybe. Yeah, let's see if we can make this into a wide photo. Let's see. Cool, so we'll expand this, take this into the center. Luckily, since none of the actual image, is off to the sides, we don't have to worry about it, but this is going to generative expand. So what it's going to go ahead and do is just kind of see the image around it, and then from there, it's able to just expand the image. It's pretty cool. Without having to worry about like crazy Photoshop like duplication techniques and like clone stamps and all that kind of stuff, or like even like content aware fill. Like it was alright, but it would like make weird like duplicated patterns where it just didn't look super pleasing. But we'll see what it does. It has like a stand here, which I need to Photoshop out. The bottle's pretty close to the edge, and he's close to the edge, so we'll see. Oh, boom! Look at that. That's just crazy, like crazy. So a vertical image into this. Without having to do really anything. It added something weird here, like it thought it was a chair or something. But outside of that, it created a very nice full image out of that, So that way I don't have to go through and do anything crazy. Then from here, we can actually just flatten I'm going to select all this. Let's see, we're going to get rid of that shadow too because we don't really want that if this theoretical object isn't even here. And we're going to take this all the way around and then just generative fill. This is like the ultimate cheat tool. I feel is like image cleanup. It's crazy what this can do. I mean, yeah, it takes a little bit of time, but it's just crazy as far as like it's so good at cleaning up things. Like come on, that's nice. It's a little bit sloppy here, but you have like a few different choices you can go through. This one looks the best, I think. So we're gonna flatten. I did mess with like the side of her coat a little bit, but we can worry about that later. So we're gonna zoom out, way out, just to see. Then from here, we're gonna go ahead and actually duplicate it because we don't want to do like destructive editing. So we're gonna come into here. We're gonna go ahead and select filter, camera raw filter, make those same kind of color adjustments here. That way we can get things looking kind of how we had them in Lightroom. What's y'all's favorite drink? I know I like juice, grape juice. Grape juice probably has to hit the hardest. I swear I love grape juice so much. Let's see. So we're going to go ahead and do pretty much as we did in Lightroom, except probably a little bit different. Let's see. We'll raise the exposure a bit. We're going to go ahead and decrease the contrast. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and decrease the contrast. We're going to add this a different way here in a little bit. Mess with the highlights. Nothing's clipping, but I don't want things to be too bright either, so we're going to actually pull those back a little bit just because things are a little bit hot on the skin. Up here on the forehead, shoulders, we're just going to pull that back just so that way it's not interrupting anything, making it look too poppy. Although we might add some like crazy contrast here in a little bit, but we'll see. Right now, these first steps are just kind of like about maintaining the detail and just making sure things are right, and then from there, though, you add your creative looks on top of those changes, if that makes sense. Let's see, we're going to mess with the clarity. For this one, we're going to actually increase it, although, you know, for like typical like females and stuff, I like the less clarity. But then for this, I definitely want to add it, but then of course we're going to go ahead and soften the skin tones in a little bit just so that we can make sure everything looks good. But then 20 might be a little too much. What's like 15? Then from there, we're going to go ahead and mess with this slider. I don't think it's going to do too much. There we go. So we're actually dehaze it a little bit. Look like it was a little foggy. So we're going to do that. But then with that comes a little bit of other changes. So mess with the exposure. Bring those shadows back up. Just a little bit. Just to see. Pull the highlights down a little bit. Let's go ahead and give it a little before and after. So we're just messing with the detail. We're pulling some stuff back out of the jacket. Some stuff here. The white balance isn't really where I want it to be. We could grab this and mess with it as far as like a white point. I don't like it, so what we're going to go ahead and do is just undo that. We're going to come back into here, and we're going to go ahead and go into the color mixer, or no, color grading. Do the same thing we did just before, just to counteract the blues of the image, to kind of push it. Let's see. Make it rich. I want those skin tones to pop, which is more on the greenish, orangish side. So yeah, there we go. We're going to go ahead and do that. Come into here, midtones, pretty much the same exact thing. We just want that to be more golden, you know, make those skin tones pop, make the golden accents pop. Let's see, so push that right about here-ish. Yeah, it looks good. So a little before and after, just removing like that blue gunk, pushing it more into like the golden like kind of realm, but I think it's just more so just fixing the white balance. Then from here, we're going to go ahead and come into here, make sure that it's not too green or pink. So we're going to add a little bit of pink to balance it out, and then boom, we got a nice balanced image right now. Still a little bit like, I guess, contrasty. Okay, get rid of that. Don't need the dropper anymore, but still pretty contrasty, which isn't too much of my taste, so I'm actually going to pull this back more to remove some of that contrast. And then from there, though, next thing I noticed is the blue suit isn't really where I want it to be. So come into here. We're going to, let's see, saturation hue. I don't think I have a slider like in Lightroom, so we're just mess with the actual hue of the blues to push it more into the realm of what I believe was there during the day, or just at least a more appealing blue because it's like more purplish here and then more blue, you know? Yeah, that looks good. Then from here, though, we're going to go ahead and actually mess with the luminance. We're going to bring Yeah, so we're going to bring this down just a bit. I want it to be like a dark, rich blue. So with that, we're going to go ahead and like crush the luminance of the blues a little bit. Aqua and blue are pretty much always tied together, usually, like, always. Let's see, what else do I want to do? So I think that's pretty good as far as the colors go. Not much I want to change. We could mess with the golds, but then I have a feeling it's like tied to the skin tones a bit. Yeah, so it's on the yellow channel for sure. So we can like actually mess with this. We see this messing with the backpack, the chains. So we're actually going to bring up the luminance of the yellows quite a bit, honestly. Coming in here, we're going to mess with the hues. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and push it maybe more towards this way because we want those golds to really, really pop. Looks like the yellows aren't messing with the skin tones too much. We just want that gold to pop more. Yeah, so the luminance is helping. This isn't really changing too much, but if we push it this way, we can see greens being introduced, which for gold, it's not really a good thing. So we're going to go ahead and push this way far that way. Luminance is up, so that way the golds like kind of shine more. And yeah, things look pretty nice. Alright, let's see, what else do I want to do? Alright, so real quick, what I want to do is fix this, but then we'll kind of get there later because I can see a little bit of an edge here. I don't like that. We're going to add back that grain because I do like that texture. I do like that filmic look. Yeah, I like it. It looks good, you know? Damn, phone's going crazy. Give me 1 second, guys. Alright, so let's go ahead and actually come into here. So I don't have the way of doing the skin retouching as far as that goes that I do in Lightroom with the color grab and shit like that. So what we will do, honestly I think it's good as far as this goes. But then while we're in here, we're actually going to, where is it at? Let's see, we'll just okay this and come back into it in a second. Usually there's like my radio gradients and all that kind of stuff too. So this is what we just did before and after. We're pretty much just brightening it up as far as shadows go, adding a little more warmth into it. Away from that blue realm, correcting the actual blue hue of the suit. Then from here, let's see, let's go ahead and come in here, filter, camera raw filter. Yeah, I'm not quite sure where this shit is. Edit. Back. Settings. And not quite sure where the radio gradient and stuff is, but what we'll go ahead and do is just something a little bit different. Let's see, how can I even do it without that? Alright, so one thing I noticed too, like I said, this here, so we're going to go ahead and actually get the lasso tool. Grab this. We'll leave a part of that shadow there because I think that is partly actually her shadow, so that's okay. That's supposed to be there. We'll generative fill this. What it's doing is just like there's like a little bit of like a side of like where we took that other object that kind of got introduced, and we don't want that. We want it to be like a smooth gradient across the entirety of the image. Boom. And that gets rid of it. So we're gonna go ahead and flatten. We're gonna kind of look at the image too. So there's more of that up top here that we can see. A little bit more over here, but it's not too bad. But we do want to make sure that we add that gradient. Let's see. That's crazy. I don't know why it's acting like this shit. Filter, camera raw filter. Nope, don't need that. Before, after, nope. There we go. It's just hiding on the side. Nice. Just gotta look for it, right? Just gotta look. So radio gradient, we really want to actually zoom out for this. We don't really want to be super close. Okay, delete. Let's see. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and zoom out. Radio gradient. This will just help bring us into the image. And why is it doing that? Nice. Not sure what it's doing. Oh, because of before and after or whatever the fuck is going on. Then we're going to go ahead and invert this. And we do want to make sure that we get both of them in here. Bring this down. It really helps center our eye into the image. Then from here, actually what I can go ahead and do is I can desaturate it a bit too if I want to. But then it's going to take a little bit away from the actual image too. So we won't push that too far, but just a little bit. Then from here, we're also going to drop the clarity a little bit too, just to kind of help bring our eye into that center here. Hit OK. Alright, nice. So we got our gradient here, which is cool. And then from here, actually what I want to do is some skin retouching. However, I don't have my actual action in here for it right now. So what we can do, I guess like a... I don't even want to do it that way, actually. Let's see, we're going to go ahead and take this. Come into here, we're going to grab our mixer brush. Alright, so this is what I do for like backgrounds. So as we can see, like there's lots of texture still in the background. We can see like lots of the paper. For the duplication, like the expand, it does a decent job as making it smooth. But I think it's more of like a resolution type of thing. So we're gonna come into here and just gently do it, and that's not really working. So actually we're gonna do this a little bit of a different way. Let's see, so we're gonna change this. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and save this as a copy. Put this on the desktop. Let's see, so save. We're going to put it as maximum, okay. And then, yeah, so we're going to exit out of this Photoshop. No, we're not going to save the changes. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and open up just regular Photoshop. Not the beta one with generative fill, but just the regular one. That way I can kind of mess with this and just kind of get my added touches on it. But of course, everything wants to open up pretty slowly, and then now the beta is opening up again for whatever crazy reason. Gotta love technology, right? Oh, okay, now it's trying to open up the image, I see. Alright, there we go. We got Photoshop opened up. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take this into here, grab our image, desktop. Alright. There we go, so we're back in Photoshop. So, like I was mentioning before, we really have the option to do, it's called frequency separation. Let's pop this on full screen, there we go. So frequency separation, this will help us like with skin tones and everything. It's like more of like a separating the texture and also the color, so that way you can kind of work on different channels without like really obliterating one or the other. This is an action I got from online, I think just some YouTube video. Yeah, somebody I watched on YouTube, just boom, frequency separation action. But then from here though, you can create this really easily and just create your own action. So coming in here, like I said, mixer brush as the last time. So this is like a very soft brush, and so we're going to come in here and just mess with the background. And really what we're aiming to do is just create a consistent, smooth flow with the background. Since the brush is so big, it takes a minute, but we're coming in here, and what we can see is like we're removing like imperfections of the background. That way things look smooth, I guess, if that makes sense, rather than the background being extremely gritty, which it works for some situations, but then we don't want it really gritty. We want it smooth, and also like to clean up like all this down here texture and not texture, imperfections as far as like the colors go. Like this looks like, you know, it's dirt, and this will help you create, I guess, like the illusion of making that just go away, which is really, really nice. So we want to kind of come in here, just kind of get this, but also you don't want to touch them, because if we touch them with the mixer brush, it creates that, and we don't want that. So Control Z. So yeah, just be very, very cautious of this, just because, like, you know, if you're close to a subject, you can create some weird artifacts and like weird imagery, as you just saw. We don't want that, so we want to just make it just around her. I mean, I guess we could select them as a subject, you know, and invert that, and then from there, you know, do a whole cleanup. Sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing this, honestly, with this bright light in my face, but we'll make it work. We'll make it work. There we go. So we're gonna come in here. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, there we go. So we're cleaning all this up, cleaning up that dirt on the ground too. This just helps give us that really, really clean look to it. And that way this background looks seamless and everything. But we're gonna come in here a little bit. Get rid of all of this, but also you don't want to really drag between two different things. What do you look for when skin retouching? So for me, I just kind of pull back the image a lot and just look at the image and like anything that kind of catches my eye. Um, yeah, I just kind of work on it. So like anything that's like distracting to me, just because I feel like I'm pretty meticulous with my images. From there, that's what I do with skin retouching. So like if we pull back, obviously since the actual like image is pretty big, we don't really see too much. But looking at it, one thing I do notice is just the light is hitting Deontay's forehead a little bit crazy, and creating like a weird dark shadow here. This can be used with the mixer brush too, so we can kind of come in here and we're going to smooth all this out. Let's see, how can I change the colors of outfits someone wears, like if I wanted to dress in a different color? Good question. Thank you, Mara, for the questions. I appreciate that. But yeah, so I mean, like changing the color of one thing, let me fix this actually real quick while we're in here. And then we could definitely go over like color changing and the best ways to kind of do that. And so right here, I'm just balancing this out with the highlights and shadows just to make it less of a crazy gradient, less of a shape because the way it was lit. And then from here, boom, we got that kind of laid out, so that helps take away like those indents that the lighting was creating. For the actual shot, if I want to change the blue suit, one way of doing it would be to come into here on a different layer. Then from here, we're able to, let's see, where is it at? I think it's in effects. Give me 1 second. Let's see, delete that. Here. Blending options. It's one of these. Okay, here we go. So we'll undo that. So we're going to go ahead and actually come into here. We're going to go ahead and selective color. What this does gives us access to all these colors. Of course, for this, it's a little bit more complicated with the blues and cyans and the way the shadows are. But we can try to come in here, blues. Then from here, we can change the way the blues interact. And then we can see if we can push it into a different realm. So if I wanted to search for like a red suit, we can see what we can do. It's pushing more towards green with these options. Let's see, so we can push into a green suit. The green suit looks pretty fire, honestly, but we want red. So we're going to go ahead and do is just mess with this to see what we can get as far as like more of a reddish look. So there's like a purple look. Let's see. Alright, so it's kind of going there, but it's not really doing what I want it to do. So another way, let's see. Let's go ahead and go out of here. Let's create a completely new layer here. And now we're going to go ahead and select. And then we're going to do color range. And this is similar to what we did in Lightroom. Kind of getting the colors and like a skin tones, all that, you know, within the thing. But I don't really like Photoshop's color select too much. But we'll come into here. We're just selecting all of this. We see that it's selecting pretty much everything. So we'll take the fuzziness down a lot. Just trying to get just the actual suit. But we want it to be pretty inclusive just so that way the edges aren't anything crazy too. So we'll try that. Create this crazy looking thing because it's grabbing a lot of information. But then from here though, we're going to go ahead and go into our colors down here. Hue saturation, and we're going to go ahead and see what it does. Nice, okay, so not bad. So we can actually come into here, we can change it to that red that we're looking for. It's more of a pinkish, so reddish, and then we're going to drop the darkness. And see how it's affecting all the image? We don't really want that, so what we're going to go ahead and do is, I'll show you guys here in a second, up the saturation. So what I'm going to do is actually increase the saturation like crazy, just to see where I'm affecting it. There's definitely easier ways to do it, but I'm not super familiar with Photoshop in the sense of being able to do like all the perfect ways. This is just the way I do things with color, and it works for me. It definitely takes a little bit more time, and I'm sure there's like lots of smoother ways of doing this, but this is a decent way. And so like coming into here, and we're just erasing pretty much everything that's not the suit. So we're just going to erase everything around him, and then just leave the suit kind of the way it is, and then that way we'll pull all this back still as far as the saturation goes. And then kind of get that stuff back, you know. So we're coming in here, make this super small, make it back to big. Oops, just did the shoe, because the shoe still is blue as well, so we want that to be there, although it is completely dark down there, so you don't really notice it too much. But yeah, still able to see some things. So we're going to come in here and still just get rid of all of this extra mess here. Because we don't really want to change the blues in the image that are not the suit, because, you know, we don't want artifacts and stuff in the background. So yeah, we'll just kind of meticulously clean all this up, get the hair cleaned up because we don't want any artifacts in there, because the hair is still very noticeable. Get this, clean that. Alright, and honestly I'm going to come in here, I'm going to zoom in just so I can kind of see what I'm doing and don't erase too much of the actual jacket. And this is still pretty sloppy. Take your time as much as you need to on this. Because, yeah, details do matter, and I'm a stickler for details. Let's see. And then also we created a mask with this too, so we could, like if we do hit the edges, we can also just invert this, change the brush to white, and then from there they'll put the things, you know, back to where we need them to be on the suit itself. Because, you know, you notice up here there's like a little bit of blues and stuff like that, so we want that to be clean, but this is just an example, so it doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. Alright, so we got that pretty much. We're going to come in here. We see a little bit more artifacting in the sleeve. Clean that up. Alright, so we got the suit changed to red, but then obviously we want to pull that shit back. So we're going to pull back the saturation a bit because we don't want it to be too over the top. Mess with the brightness. Boom. And just like that, we have a changed colored suit. And then also with this too, it's already selected now, so if you don't like red and it's not destructive, you can now change the color of the suit to anything you want. So if we did want to go with that green, we can do that. We could pull the saturation back a bit just to give it more of a subtle green. Mess with the brightness and everything, like I said, just push and pull sliders. That way you can kind of make it look as realistic as possible. Doing this though, I do see some additional stuff I didn't actually clean up. So we're going to kind of come into here, we're going to clean that back up, get that off the image, because we really only want to affect just the suit. So do that, clean up the backpack-ish area. There we go. Boom. Alright, there we go. So actually we're going to invert this while we're here. We might as well just try and make it look as clean as possible. We are going to refill all this in as far as this goes, the edge of the suit. That way we can kind of get this as crisp as possible and as realistic looking as possible, because these details do matter. Invert this because obviously we see all this extra artifacting in the beard, the wrist, all this. So we're going to go ahead and clean all that up. Zoom back out. Clean that up. Boom, there we go. So we're going to go ahead and drop that back down to a realistic level. Boom, I like the green. For whatever reason, the green looks fire with the gold. The green and gold look nice together. Mess with the saturation. Like I said, I don't want it to be too overly saturated. I just want it to look nice. And then boom, so now we got a green suit. Let's see here. So we're going to go ahead and actually, because that was pretty much done, I think. We do have to retouch the skin still. So we're going to go ahead and do that next. Let's see here. So we're going to go ahead and actually flatten this. Alright, we're going to run that frequency separation action again. And then this is kind of where we can go in and clean up the skin a little more. Alright, so we're coming to here. We already did fix up the forehead because the lighting was crazy on it as far as like creating like a weird indent on the face. But we didn't fix the cheeks. So this is the frequency separation technique. It's like more of like a quick way of doing skin retouching still. It kind of makes it look a little, depending on how you actually push it, it makes it look a little bit more, I don't know, plasticky. But then I do like to just make it very subtle, I guess. So now I'm using the mixer brush in here. It's not like a reset automatically, so it's just sampling whatever I'm touching on it and then letting me kind of like drag it and mix it. So all I'm doing right now is going through and like looking at inconsistencies as far as like shadows and highlights go. I don't want anything to be like a crazy difference between it, you know. So I'm looking at this. I want this to kind of blend better, so I'm going to blend it all together more. The glasses itself are kind of like crazy reflections, so there's not much I can do inside those at the moment unless I were to like go through and actually Photoshop and completely replace it. But it's not as serious, especially since we are so pulled back. Then we'll go ahead and actually look at her. So looking at the legs, we're going to go ahead and actually fix this as well. Make it a little bigger. Just trying to even out all these like things, because people's skin, with the way light interacts with it, we'll just see like different blotches. It's not necessarily the skin, it's just the way the light itself interacts with the skin, and we're just here to clean it up because of course we want everyone to look best, their best on camera, you know. And so we're here to make things even. And yeah, and this also helps with like anything as far as like, you know, this type of stuff. We can kind of come in here and clean it up. Even like this looked like maybe she had some like different pants on that had like a singe, so this will help like get rid of those as well, so that way there's not like crazy marks on her, and it just looks a little nicer. So we'll go through and clean this up. Obviously the texture issue still exists with the actual imprint, but this helps clean up anything as far as like shadows and go, you know, and like highlights. So look a little bit before and after, so we can see all that kind of like just kind of melting away. Once again, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. This is definitely a great time to get any kind of questions in. That way I can kind of help you guys out with your projects. If you guys have anything, or if you guys want to learn how to take better portraits, I can help you with that as well. And just getting everything looking nicer. Even armpits like that too. See like how it had like a weird, like, I don't know, just the way the light was hitting it just looked weird. Even like the arm. We're able to come through and blend all this together to make everything a little bit more smooth and appealing to the eye. Then we'll come on her face and fix all of this. Let's see, yep, so just more blotchiness. Even like bags under the eyes as well. It helps get those. Since those are darker, we can actually come into here and brighten those up. Oop, a little bit too off to the edge. We don't want that to hit the edge. We're just trying to brighten up these dark parts, and that way it makes everything a little bit even. That helps with the nose. Really helps just everything get in line. Like the subtlety is key. We're really not doing too much as far as like this goes. We're just kind of pushing and pulling and slowly building that look into where we want it to be. This will just help euthanize pretty much like all the faces, just make it look really, really nice. It's cool to watch. I'm not a photographer, but still interested. Hey, that's what's up. Well, hey, glad you're enjoying watching it. I appreciate that. Just even coming here watching me, even if you're not into photography, I do think it's pretty relaxing. I don't know, like I've definitely watched a bunch of people edit photos, and even if you don't like to take photos, it's still fun information to have. What do you like to do in your free time, Kayla? Let's see, boom. So it was a little bit before and after, so we had the face, before, after, and all this is really doing, like I said, is just taking all the small spots of the skin and just making everything even, so everything gradients even the arm. Boom, just makes it smooth, you know. Then from here we got smooth people, so we zoom back out. This is the final image. We could do more to it, but I think it looks pretty good as far as that goes. One thing we can do as well, little technique, let's see, we're going here, and this is just dodging and burning. So this is how you can get like an extra pop to your image. So we can kind of come in here, we'll do curves. We will drag up the brightness a lot, and it looks crazy, but don't worry, we're going to hit Control I to actually hide it. Then from here, though, we're going to go ahead and paint where we want those to be. We're going to name this, let's see, highlights. Or we'll just say highs, because I don't want to type highs. And then we'll create another one with the curves, and we're going to take it the opposite way. More in the shadows. Control I, invert it or hide it or whatever, and we're going to do darks. Alright, so now we have pretty much paint brushes that we can actually use to paint our highlights and paint our shadows. What this will do is allow us to create a lot of separation in there. So what I'm looking at the image right now, I see like highlights here on her leg, on her shoulder, on her chest a little bit, but we don't really want to emphasize it too much. We see like chains, the hair up here I definitely want to highlight. The forehead I don't want to highlight too much because just the way like the light was looking, I don't want to highlight too much, but then there's really any edges that have a brightness to it we want to like emphasize. So we'll come in here, and this is just like a really soft brush. We can do high opacity because we're going to go ahead and actually blend this. So we're going to go ahead and actually just so you guys can see, we're going to paint pretty much just all over the highlights. We'll zoom in a little bit because that was sloppy. So we'll come in here, we'll paint on the highlights, something like that. We can even come in here and get her eyes, but that might even be like just a separate thing. We'll come in here, we'll do like the lips a little bit on the outlines. We do see the chains here. Hey, what's up, Jacqueline? How you doing? Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate it. How's things been? How is your leg? Hopefully it's better. Did not look fun. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do this. Boom. Get the shoulders. Get the shoulders. Get over here. We'll get a little bit of the jacket right here. We'll get this boot for sure. There we go. Get the shoe. Get right here. Get the chair. We're pretty much just going over all the highlights. I know it looks crazy, but what we're going to go ahead and do is actually just drop the opacity a lot. This will help blend it in. Absolutely doing PT. Hey, walking is a big step. Walking is a huge step. That's awesome. And of course, like, just it's going to be better and better and better. Hopefully you're ready to get out here soon and take some photos, go on hikes and shit, you know? Get back into nature. Because, yeah, I can imagine that's, I don't know, just such a blessing to be able to walk, you know? And then getting back into it. So good for you. That's awesome. Walking is huge. Is huge. What's the first thing you're going to do when you can walk back fully 100%? What are you doing? Let's see. We're going to grab the darkness. And so now we're doing the opposite. Take shadows, and we're going to go ahead and place these where it's dark. We don't want to do too much, but then just anywhere where it's dark, we kind of want to put this mark. And like I said before too, we are going to drop the opacity just so that way it's not anything too crazy. Come into here, drop a shadow here, maybe like underneath the pants a little bit. Take this, take that, do a little bit of chair. And so all we're doing now is just emphasizing the highlights and the shadows everywhere. Definitely going for a hike, but also starting working out again. Hell yeah, shit. I need to work out too. I feel that because I struggle with that myself already, and I need to get on that. But that's what's up. Like hiking and working out. I mean, shit kind of goes hand in hand. That way you can do both of them, honestly. But probably more intense workouts than just the hikes. But yeah, just being able to go out and see things, you know, it's nice. Yo, what's up, man? What's good, Jordan? Hope all is well with you. Hey, appreciate that, Casey. I appreciate it a lot, man. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you coming by the live stream. If you have any photo video questions too, man, feel free. If not, thanks for just stopping by and saying hi. I appreciate that because it is kind of weird just sitting here talking to myself for so long, you know. But I appreciate all you guys coming in here just to say what's up, just watch me work, you know. So then we have these shadows on there as well. It is crazy still. It doesn't look too bad, honestly, but we're going to pull that back anyways because we don't want it to be too overwhelming. But then if we go ahead and group these, Control G, we can see a drastic difference in just the poppiness of it all, you know? Just helps pop the image more, puts it more into just a nicer realm. Like even up here on the hair, you can see, boom, like just pops it more, you know? I got products to shoot. Good luck. Keep working. Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, definitely send me some sneak peeks of the product shoots. I love those. I love to see what you're doing, especially with the creative process. Definitely have fun with that, especially because you could really do whatever you want for like product photos. It's great. But thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Hope you're doing great. We'll have to link soon on something creative, okay? Definitely do something. All right, boom. That's that image there. It's dodging and burning. I mean, of course, we could do something crazy as far as like, I don't know, adding a dragon to the background or whatever. But yeah. I think my camera died too, so nice. Well, guys, I think it's about it. I've been live for about an hour now, so I'm about to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate that. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys, okay?